very warm welcome to all of you. The Mass Media Department of Don Bosco College, Panjim is today in conversation with Ms. Mitu Varma, the Director of Film South Asia and Project Director of Panos South Asia. Don Bosco College recently had a screening of 4 films that were a part of Travel Film South Asia. The documentaries were from Burma, Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Ms. Mitu Varma, she will talk to us about how documentaries impact decision making and changes not just in society but also maybe at the government level. Ms. Varma, could you please tell us about the story of One, the film that we screened at Don Bosco College today?
The Story of One is a film by Kannan Arunaselam, and it's about, in particular, was one of the places where the Sri Lankan war was at its apex. There were the Tamils there, and there were Muslims as well, and the LTTE didn't think that they could have a state where the Muslims could also be there. So there were attacks on the Muslims, and then there were retaliatory attacks, and in that about 8,000 persons disappeared, and of that this is the story of one of the persons who had disappeared, and it humanizes the face of all the disappearances. There were many more disappearances in the war. So what you get to see here is the story of one, and it's about this priest who was traveling with a Tamil boy on pillion riding on his bike, and both he and the boy were disappeared. The film tells you about it, and it's a conjecture. There is actually no closure, but it's a conjecture of what happened to him, pieced together by events and various sightings here and there.
Students, young students, do not really associate with the kind of disturbances that we had seen in the film, and yet they were very receptive of the message of the film. So what would you tell us about how documentaries impact the information and knowledge of civilians about the lesser known facts about the problems in the country?
Well, we've been working in South Asia as a whole now. If you see, for instance, the experience in Sri Lanka, communal violence is not far from us in India as well. Mm-hmm. It's simmering under the surface. It's surfaced in a lot of places, unfortunately. And we need to know that everybody is basically just human, and how to survive together, how to live together. Once you hear the story, it's a kind of you build empathy with the characters. You see that they're just like you and me, and not different, and that kind of experience is what we want to bring towards South Asians, because South Asia is a region which is huge, as you know, and which is held back. There isn't much development because there's so much of strife.
So the films, you're trying to say, also bring out the common strands that the different South Asian countries have.
True. Of
peace as well as disturbances and violence.
True.
We also screened 2 lovely films that had messages of gender rights or gender equality today. One was a short documentary about the making of a film, Pakistani film, My Punjabi Love for You. And the second film was No Burqas Behind Bars from Afghanistan. So I would like Ms. Mitu to talk a bit about these really lovely films that we screened today.
Okay. Well, the first one, My Punjabi Love for You, is actually a great fun film, as you could see. I mean, the students were quite happy and laughing, and it's the protagonist is Amna Sheikh, who is quite popular in the Zindagi channel serials. So she's quite a well-known face, and she's shooting with Adnan Malik, a director. She's shooting a music video, and in that video they're showing how she's learning kung fu, she's learning karate, she's learning how to ride a bike, and all that. And she's shown as a village woman who is exploited, and she learns all this, and she rises up against the people who've exploited her. And Amna talks about her experience while shooting it, and little things that came to her and that mattered to her, and in a very subtle way that message of gender empowerment comes through. For instance, she says, well, riding a bike should be as common as it is in India and Bangladesh, it should be so in Pakistan as well. Why not? And once they see people doing it, hopefully it will happen. But very subtly, with a lot of humor, this message came across in that film. The other film is a very powerful film from Afghanistan. It's shot in a prison for women prisoners, and it follows the lives of 3 women who are in jail. And ironically, you see that there's more freedom inside that prison than there is outside for these women. You have somebody, in the beginning, there's somebody talking about the sentences that all these women have. For a murderer, there's a sentence of just 6 years. And for a woman who's fled an abusive husband, the sentence is, say, 15 years. There's just no match between it. So you can see how, and the stories of these 3 protagonists tell you exactly what their situation is, how they are so confined without any recourse to anything, and yet when you see them in prison, what lovely women they are, how much of spirit they have, and what kind of resilience and courage. One of them gets released, and she knows if she goes back to her family, she will be killed, because she's brought so-called dishonor because she had fled with somebody she fell in love with. That boy is made to marry somebody else, and her brother, she says, will kill her because she ran away, A, and B, she was in prison for 1 year. So she had to be kept in a women's shelter. But you see, you realize who these women are, how they respond, what they do, and it's not so disheartening as it gives you a lot of hope as well, that something can be done.
Ms. Varma, tell us something about Invoking Justice.
Invoking Justice is a film by Dept and Raj, which talks of all women Jamaats in Tamil Nadu, which have taken up issues of justice, and it's quite unheard of in the rest of the country. They've come out from very confined spaces and are taking up the causes of fellow women. It's an amazing film, very well made.
Ms. Varma, you started your career as a print journalist with the Press Trust of India, and then you moved on to the Interpress Limited. So could you tell us about what inspired the move from print journalism to getting so involved with documentaries?
Well, actually, there were a group of like-minded people in 1996 when we started off with this magazine called Himal South Asian, because we thought of the region as one. It was so connected culturally, even otherwise. And we felt that none of us, individual countries or states, can progress without everybody moving together and understanding each other better. And for that, we thought to bring out a journal which is from the region, of the region, by the region would be something that could be done. And we started this magazine. Many of you must be knowing the person behind this is Mr. Kanakmani Dikshit, who is a very well-known journalist across the region. And he was the founding editor of Himal. And all of us, I was doing Himal from India, there was somebody else from Pakistan, and all of us got together and started this journal. And in the next year, we moved on to documentary. That was 97. And being a print journalist, I agreed to do a seminal article on South Asian documentary. I don't think anybody had done putting together that information before. So I had done that, and that was the kind of booklet that was distributed during the first festival. And that got me really interested in documentary.
Tell us something about Film South Asia in Kathmandu, the film festival in Kathmandu.
Okay. Film South Asia this year will be held from 19th to 22nd November. It's the 10th edition. And we are looking forward to hosting as many people as we can over there. Entries are open right now, in fact, and submissions are, you can get submissions till 15th of August. We've extended the deadline because, as you know, the devastating earthquake in Nepal. So that in its own small way, it gives the message that Nepal is back on its feet, and it is back as a regional hub where international events can happen. And Nepal is special because people from all over the region can come to Nepal without any problem of visas and anything. So we get the filmmakers together, they interact, they exchange ideas, and these are all fresh ideas which mainstream media doesn't have place for, because you have quite a uniform looking mainstream media these days across countries. This is in fact the second time we've come to Goa. We're very happy about that.
Don Bosco College Panjim has a great mass media department, and our students are very enthusiastic about documentary filmmaking, especially the third year students. So Ms. Varma, could you share some tips and some suggestions how they should go about it, their passion for documentary filmmaking?
Well, the major thing I would like to share with, first of all, is that we are having a special student section this time, but we would love that you send the best films from your students to our festival, and we will show them to audiences from across South Asia. That would be a very good beginning. And of course, it doesn't mean that if you're just you're going into commercial cinema, then you don't do documentaries.
Right.
There are people who have done both, who for instance, this popular director, Kabir Khan, he came to one of our first festivals in 1997. Kabir Khan was there, and he brought his documentary, and he used to do documentaries before. Now he's into feature films full time. But I'm sure people can switch between genres if they make the time for it. There are lots of gaps, in fact, which the media doesn't handle these days. For instance, who talks about labor issues? Who talks about migration that's inside the country? So much of migration in the country. There are some publications, etc., that talk about the violence in the margins, the violence that's, for instance, the communal violence, etc., that happens. To make films on them. And there's public health, for instance, which is most ignored. And there's so many issues to do with public health that need to be looked at.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mitu Varma.
Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to be in Don Bosco, and especially to interact with all the students here. It was wonderful to see so many of them interested in the documentary and come and watch it with so much of enthusiasm. I'm very happy to be here.
We were in conversation with Ms. Mitu Varma, the Director of Film South Asia and Project Director of Panos South Asia. We hope you keep watching more In Conversation videos produced by the Don Bosco College Panjim in future. Thanks a lot.